Metroid.
In Metroid, you take control of the bounty hunter Samus Aran, who has to chase after some space pirates and bring them to justice, and finish off their leader, Mother Brain.
One neat feature in the game is that you actually gain abilities. So you get, different weapons, but you also get the morph ball and the bomb for the morph ball.
There's cool discoveries that you get throughout the game too, similar to how Zelda.
Yeah.
Like Zelda, the game is about exploration and finding new items to progress to other areas that you couldn't reach before.
It's another game where they kind of take the reins off and let you explore the world at your own pace, which means that you are going to screw up a lot.
Metroid was a hard game to navigate. You needed a map, really.
Yeah, this is before Nintendo Power even existed. You still had the Nintendo Fun Club magazine. So, I mean, you had to actually call up someone or know a friend in order to figure out what to do if you got stuck. I mean, if you had a Fun Club issue that had the map in it, you were good to go, but not many people had Nintendo Fun Club magazine to begin with.
You could get multiple endings in Metroid depending on how quickly you beat the game, which popularized speedrunning the game.
And at the time, it was quite shocking to find out, if you got the best ending, that Samus Aran was a woman.
A woman?
Whoa! Women can wear armor and wield guns!
Metroid was eerie as hell when you started it.
It actually was a little scary.
Yeah.
A little scary.
The thing about Metroid that made it great is that it was a very moody game. The music in Metroid gave you the feeling of being alone on a planet, and it does that very, very well.
It just has that claustrophobic feel to it, that you're just constantly going through hallways and you're just trying to find your way through a maze and you're all by yourself.
Metroid has a friggin' amazing soundtrack by Hirokazu Tanaka. I mean, getting atmosphere out of 8 bits can't be easy, but he pulled it off.
Instead of putting a battery backup feature in the game like they did with Zelda, you had this incredibly complex multi-character password.
There was a code in Metroid called the Justin Bailey code, and it was really clever because in the UK they call a Bailey a swimsuit, so just in Bailey means just in swimsuit. So you would see Samus running around in her swimsuit if you entered that code.
That's Metroid. Obviously, it's still a huge franchise for Nintendo. Samus is every fanboy's wet dream.
銀河連邦司令メトロイドを破壊せよ地底深く広がる迷路要塞に宇宙征服の野望が渦巻く行け宇宙戦士サムスファミリーコンピュータディスクカードにアクション&迷路ゲームメトロイドやればやるほどディスクシステム
In the middle of the 1980s, Nintendo was on top of the world. After releasing their popular Famicom console in their native Japan, they released it in America as the Nintendo Entertainment System, the console that single-handedly reversed the video game crash of 1983. And then one of their designers, Shigeru Miyamoto, turned into a rock star by developing smash hits like Super Mario and The Legend of Zelda. In many ways, Miyamoto stole the thunder from Nintendo's former Golden Boys, the guys of their first research and development division, cleverly named R&D1. So as the corporate executives tasked Miyamoto with continuing his Italian plumbing job, it became R&D1's duty to create new franchises. Division leader Gunpei Yokoi, who had been Miyamoto's producer, wanted to prove R&D1's worth again. He set out to make a game that would take a number of cues from his protege's games, but at the same time would strike out into bold new territory where the plumber dared not tread. The result was the start of one of the most famously cursed franchises in gaming history, a series that routinely produced some of the most beloved games of all time and yet never saw commercial success. But backtracking through 25 years of Metroid maps reveals a wealth of daring innovation, one of the greatest comebacks in the industry's history, and some of the greatest 2D and 3D experiences ever played. Looking out at the gaming landscape of the mid-80s, Yokoi saw that there were a lot of different design ideas emerging. His protege, Miyamoto, had made platforming popular with his Mario series, and non-linear exploration popular with his Zelda series. Meanwhile, in the West, arcade shooters like Commando were just starting to become popular. Yokoi decided that he would combine all of these disparate elements into one game, a non-linear shooter platformer. On top of this, he also wanted to go where Miyamoto hadn't dared. The Nintendo rockstar was a child at heart, and his games were correspondingly lighthearted. Yokoi's game, by contrast, would be a dark, moody piece that took its cues from Ridley Scott's Alien, just about the opposite of a kids' movie. It's no coincidence that one of the famous bosses in the game is named Ridley. Under the direction of Yoshio Sakamoto, the game would feature a darker color set, a claustrophobic space, and a distinct sense of isolation throughout. Where Mario had Luigi, this hero would be alone with his enemies for the entire journey. It was one of the earliest games that specifically tried to appeal to an older audience. The hero would be interstellar bounty hunter Samus, and his game was to be called Space Hunter. But as the development progressed, the crew started getting more creative with their names. First up, a soccer fan on the team gave Samus the last name Aaron, after the middle name of soccer legend Pele, Arantes. Next, the title itself got an overhaul. Director Sakamoto realized that the hero's rapid movement through underground spaces was kind of like taking the city metro, and that his power armor looked kind of like an android. Crunching Metro and Android together, and he got a word that he thought was pretty cool: Metroid. The name stuck. Ironically, while this word was made to describe the hero, it would eventually become the name of the hero's enemy. The story was relatively bare bones, but was just enough to give the gameplay a cool context. Bounty hunter Samus has discovered that the evil space pirates have set up a secret base underneath a deserted planet, where they are growing an army of Metroids, evil creatures that are just plain bad news. It's up to our hero to save the day. But to do it, Samus would have to break well-established gaming conventions. Like other characters of the time, Samus could run to the right, but to gamers' surprise, he could also run back to the left. Metroid was one of the first games to ever allow backtracking. Yokoi, Sakamoto, and their team took this simple mechanic and designed an entirely new genre of gaming around it. Where other games had the player run through a linear level to its end, the entire Metroid game would all be one giant map that could be traversed at will. The trick was that certain regions would be inaccessible until Samus found a specific power-up for his armor. This meant the player would constantly be moving back and forth, up and down across the map, searching for new items to reach new areas. It was so huge, in fact, that players wouldn't be able to beat it in one sitting. So the crew made use of a radical new system, pioneered by Zelda just a few months earlier, allowing the player to save his progress. Now it wouldn't matter if the player had to go do something else. He could come back to the game at any time. It took the non-linear design that Zelda had just invented and evolved it one better. While traversing through the levels and blasting away enemies with ever better weapons, gamers also had to contend with the bizarre non-melodies of the legendary composer Hip Tanaka. To reflect Metroid's more adult nature, Tanaka chose not to write simple, catchy tunes like in Nintendo's other games. Rather, he made the music sound like an alien creature itself, almost more like one giant sound effect than actual music. The famous Metroid theme song would only play once a player actually beat the game, so that after hours of playing through bizarre soundscapes, the player could finally relax into a recognizable song. A reward for a job well done. Oh yeah, and there was one other little reward players got at the game's end. One of the most famous twists in all of gaming. After wiping out the Metroids and defeating the space pirates' infamous leader Mother Brain, Samus finally relaxed, took off his suit, and was revealed to be a woman. In 1986, the idea of a female protagonist in a video game was practically unheard of, unless you count Ms. Pac-Man. One of the developers came up with the idea about halfway through production, and everybody agreed it would be a cool twist. To preserve the secrecy, Samus was always referred as a he in promotional material, and even in the game's own manual. And as it happened, the twist itself had another twist. It turned out that the revelation would only be revealed if the player beat the game under a certain time limit. And then the really great players realized that if they could beat Metroid as quickly as possible, they'd get to see Samus in a bikini. Don't look, kids. It was the first video game in history to have alternate endings, and was a shock to audiences everywhere. It also gave them a reason to play the game through a second time. Bikinis were a great motivator.
It's been said that Plato was the first to argue that necessity is the mother of invention. That is to say that brilliance may be born from inspiration, but that inspiration is born from force of circumstance. Now, far be it from me to challenge Plato, but he obviously never played this game. This is Metroid, and this game's development was not the result of necessity or need or any of the exigencies to which Plato seems to ascribe the act of invention. And make no mistake, this game's development certainly represented invention. You see, Nintendo didn't need to make Metroid. Before the very idea had even materialized, the company had already become the spearhead of a resurrection and subsequent golden age for video games. From 1981's Donkey Kong to 1985's Ice Climber and, of course, Super Mario Bros., the company's bright and colorful platform games were driving unprecedented growth in the exciting new field of home computer gaming, a field in which Nintendo was the undisputed leader. And that was a position it had reached by creating lively, colorful worlds populated by lively, colorful characters. And although you'll uncover many things within Metroid's dark and brooding caverns, not a single one of them is lively or colorful. Indeed, Metroid was unlike anything Nintendo had done before. A development experiment spawned both from the company's desire to offer contrast to the polychromatic pleasantries for which they were known, and to forge new boundaries of gameplay and objective. So, necessity? Sorry Plato, but this is one case of invention with a very different mother. A mother brain. To just look at Metroid, it's easy to see very familiar conventions and assume that beneath them is a very familiar game. But there's much more to Metroid than shooting enemies and jumping on platforms. Those familiar actions are merely the vehicles for a far more intriguing experience based mostly on exploration, something virtually unheard of during that era. The game begins in the aftermath of an attack on a research vessel by the evil space pirates. They've stolen specimens of a deadly organism known as the Metroid, creatures the space pirates plan to mutate, replicate, and use to exterminate all who oppose them. The Galactic Federation has failed to recover the Metroids, and in a desperate last effort, it hires the galaxy's most feared and renowned bounty hunter for a recon mission. Her name is Samus Aran, and for this mission, she's on her own. And so are you, the player. You see, Metroid doesn't tell you where to go. It doesn't even tell you what to do. And unless you read the instruction manual, you'll have no idea that plot even exists. Metroid drops you into an enormous alien world in which you're alone, unequipped, and completely lost. But strange as it may sound, that's what makes Metroid so captivating. The game leaves you mesmerized by your adventure, a quest which felt much more personal than most at the time because it unfolded at your discretion. Completing level 1 didn't take you to level 2. In fact, there really were no levels. You went where you wanted, when you wanted, and at the pace you wanted. Another aspect of Metroid which was especially groundbreaking. So obviously, Metroid is all about exploration. And although it can be a bit confusing and even frustrating at times, it works well for a few reasons. First, if you want to explore the planet Zebes, you need to platform, and that's something very few developers do as well as Nintendo, particularly during this time period. So the gameplay is polished and responsive, though the controls may feel a tad stiff compared to contemporary Metroid games. Secondly, and another area in which Metroid really helped break ground, is the feeling of empowerment it gives you. The game was one of the first to give the player the ability to find tools and weapons to permanently strengthen their character. And although Samus begins her mission with a scant arsenal, there are plenty of powerful upgrades hidden throughout Zebes. Upgrades which allow her to access locations of the foreboding planet, she otherwise couldn't have. So your tireless exploration is actually incentivized, and that's excellent game design. Finally, the third reason this exploration-based gameplay works is the feeling of isolation the game creates. From its unearthly level layouts and creatures, to its unsettling art design and ambient music, Metroid is all about mood and tension, and they amplify both the feeling of discovery and the psychological impact inherent within such deep exploration of a place like Zebes. Metroid looks, sounds, and just feels alien. It still does to this day. And that's one of the reasons this game is so widely recognized as not only one of the finest of its time, but perhaps one of the most significant and influential of all time. Decades since we first visited these subterranean crypts where monsters cloaked by darkness crawl on the ceiling and harrowing screeches cry out in the distance, there's still something very unsettling about this desolate planet. And there's still something very powerful about Metroid.
It isn't often that a game changes or even begins an entire genre. And sure, it's usually not just a single game that causes this, but that single game would certainly leave its mark for players to come back to and say, oh, I see why this genre is the way it is now. Looking at the Metroidvania genre, which has had a large increase in popularity, especially across indie devs in the last few years, one may become curious as to how the early games in the style actually managed to influence it so critically. If you trace back the origins of the term Metroidvania, it actually really became coined alongside the release of Castlevania Symphony of the Night on PlayStation. But the reason for the name is due to how much inspiration the Castlevania team took from previous Metroid titles, especially with how the world is structured. And the fact that fans are still eagerly awaiting the next entry in the Metroid series after so many years must mean this game truly was impactful for the entire course of adventure gaming. And honestly, playing this 33-year-old game was truly some of the most fun I've had with a video game in years, and I'll explain exactly why as we figure out what's so great about Metroid. Let me take you guys down the rabbit hole of how I started playing this game and what my first impressions were, because this episode was not even intended to be about Metroid. In fact, I had started playing Hollow Knight because I had heard such great things about it over the last few years. But a few hours into playing, I thought about the fact that I had never actually played a full Metroidvania game before, so I really had nothing to compare it to. I did a little searching online and discovered that HowLongToBeat.com shows many of the Metroid and Castlevania games lasting a fraction of the playtime for Hollow Knight. So I figured I would just knock a couple of them out for comparisons, and started with the original, of course, Metroid on NES. But I had no clue how into this game I would get. So the first time I tried the game, I went in completely blind, and within about an hour was incredibly confused and reaching multiple dead ends. Then I decided to look up the NES manual online because several of these games back in the 80s actually required you to do a little reading just to get the basics in. And let me tell you, you have to read the manual for this game. There's virtually no way to understand your goal without it, which is a big reason Metroidvania games are the way they are now, because the layout of the worlds in these games are a staple of the genre, yes, but the development of the story is an equally important criteria. But the manual gives you more than the basic mechanics and an opening story. This little inbox manual is basically your referential field guide. For instance, through the manual, you know that there are extra energy tanks out there and 10 possible upgrades to Samus's suit. Not only does it tell you there are 10 items, but it shows you what they all are, so you can even have a little checklist of items to look out for. The manual also tells you how to deal damage to certain enemies and the fact that you'll need to attack the walls because not everything is going to be obvious as you play. And of course, the all-important map is in there. But unfortunately, it's little more than a cartoon mock-up of the general layout of the whole game, so it gives you a sense of where you may be, but of course, no real details. But I figured that would be a good enough jumping off point, so after reading the manual and seeing the little map, I figured I stood a better chance and headed back into Zebes, and once again, got lost in this alien labyrinth. So I took what the manual said to heart, and started making my own map. That's right, even the manual says you might as well draw your own map, and oddly enough, that is when I got hooked. I can honestly say that I have never been so absorbed into exploring a game because this felt like actual exploration. I had to discover the world, I had to learn its secrets and map them all out. There was not even a map for me to fill in-game, so I actually had to fill in the blanks on my own piece of paper just to make sure I had seen every possible corner of this game. Once you're actually putting it on paper, you can clearly see the amount of content Nintendo crammed into this little cartridge with the way the tunnels of the world snake through each other to maximize space. Once I started seeing the patterns and layouts, the whole Fortress of Zebes started making so much more sense in terms of where I needed to go as well as where secrets might be. This is exploration in its truest form. There was little to no guidance in these early home video games, and exploration in one form or another was crucial. But teaching your player to actually understand the way the world is laid out is so much more difficult to do than just providing them with a map, but Metroid made it work. There were a couple ways people could approach the discovery of games like these back on the NES. The first was obviously to do exactly what I did, and time-consumingly draw out the map, and second would have been to buy the Nintendo Power or whatever magazine guide you could get your hands on to walk you through the game. And the third option, of course, is brute force. And Metroid still keeps itself open to this. I know that even though I geeked out over the opportunity to make a glorified spreadsheet, that not everyone who wants to play this game will also want to take the time to draw the whole thing out. Of course not. That's simply not interesting to everybody. But as long as you keep making discoveries on your own time, Metroid supports you in however you want to play. For example, the game is split into a few sections, including Brinstar, Norfair, and Turian, as well as the mini-boss hideouts. Depending on where you're exploring when you die, you'll be sent back to the entrance of that section, which is incredibly generous for a game over, insert password style game like this, where, in technical aspects, it wouldn't have been unheard of for them to just send you back to the beginning of the game. Not only this, but any red doors you've blasted open, stay open. So if you're down on your luck and used all your missiles right before you died, you can still get around no problem before you stock back up.
The challenge is Metroid. The power is Nintendo. Defend the planet Zebes against the evil Mother Brain. It's survival or destruction. Do battle or die. Metroid only from Nintendo.
For thousands of years, humankind has been mapping out the world as we seek to satiate our curiosity about our known surroundings. From the ancient Babylonian clay tablets to the Greek sketches of a spherical Earth and the simple schematic maps of medieval times, cartographers have always been testing new tools and methods as they continued to survey our geography. When creating the early nautical charts, sailors would estimate their position by tracking their speed, distance, and time traveled using compasses and celestial quadrants of the night sky. This was the primordial age of navigation. Just like Metroid on the NES, a labyrinth-style game with no map. Yes, in 1986, video games were in their own primitive navigational stage. Nowadays, just about any game would have some kind of built-in map system, but not here. When you explore the caverns of the alien planet, you really have to explore it, the way an ancient surveyor would. This game wasn't here to pamper your ass. Aside from a vague and useless map in the instruction manual, you were on your own. So, find a pen and paper and get to work. And sure, later they added the map in the Game Boy Advance remake, Metroid Zero Mission, but I'm talking the original version. It was all up to you as you take control of the character Metroid as he explores the planet. Yeah, okay, nowadays it's common knowledge that it's Samus, one of the all-time great female protagonists in gaming, and one of the greatest protagonists of all. But when this game first came out, she was more of a mysterious character like Boba Fett. Her identity was kept hidden until the very end when she first unmasks. This was a pretty cool reveal for the time. Oddly, the manual refers to Samus as a he in both the Japanese and English versions. Whether the misgendering was by accident or an intentional ploy, we may never know. This game was a big deal to me at the time, and I even still have the footage to prove it.
Uh-oh.
Oh yeah, that was back when I was little nerd, before I graduated with a degree in garbage. It was a less jaded era. You could play a game without much need for criticism. I mean, come on, it's Metroid. of the original Nintendo classics. It was groundbreaking in a sense that it offered a non-linear world to explore as you fight treasure trolls and armored turds while hopping across eyeballs and floating gumdrops. There is an innate satisfaction in upgrading your weapon and abilities so you can go back to areas which were previously inaccessible. It had a claustrophobic and isolating feel inspired by Ridley Scott's Alien, and the music is some of the best of the NES, from the spacey atmospheric title theme to the upbeat rockin' Brinstar stage to the haunting tones of Kraid's Lair. Overall, it's safe to say the original Metroid changed the face of gaming. But there's one problem. It fucking sucks.
Yeah, that's right. It's time to show my face so you can see the sincerity in my eyes. You know you can trust a guy with pens in his pocket when I tell you that this game is a frustrating piss storm of fuck! I'll start with the most minor issues. First, you can't save your progress. Instead, there's a password system, which was common at the time, so I don't blame them. And I know the Famicom disc version had a save feature, but I'm talking the Western release, which is the one I had. These passwords suck ass. But keep in mind, back in the day, you had to write them down. So you better have had really good handwriting and were able to distinguish clearly between upper and lowercase letters and numbers. Some of them, like G and L, look like they're in cursive. I'll show you some cursive. Fuck, 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 fuck! When you're low on energy, it beeps at you. Don't you just hate that shit? Nobody wants that. Yeah, I'm low on energy. Thanks for telling me. It's like when the fridge beeps to let you know the door is open. Like, yeah, I'm putting groceries away. Or when the microwave beeps when your food is done. But this is worse. It's not just any beep. It's a specifically irritating beep like a smoke detector on low battery. Ugh, make it stop. It wouldn't be so bad if it beeped just once or twice, but it doesn't let up. It's infinite. You can't play under that distraction, so it becomes an emergency to find some energy as quickly as possible. You end up playing recklessly, but it's best to just die on purpose so you don't have to hear that shit. It's hard to hit enemies that are low to the ground. Sure, you can roll into a ball and bomb, but there's no crouching shot. So if you're stuck behind a slow-moving enemy, it's like being stuck behind a cat. You know how cats like to get in front of you with their tails straight up in the air? Those little fuckers. When you go through doors, there's a good chance an enemy is waiting, and they're impossible to avoid. I mean, look at that. That is fucking broken right there. Sometimes they can even hit you on the other side. Ah, you gotta be kidding me. Sometimes they even bully you back through the door, so it's just so you can take even more hits. Don't you just love when you step into a room and you're dead on arrival? This is one of those cryptic, where the fuck do you go type of games. You always have to blast through a wall, or shoot up through a ceiling, or drop through a floor and go underneath a pool of lava or quicksand, or which would otherwise kill you. I wouldn't mind it if these were secret areas to find some extra power-ups, you know, a bonus. But these are required paths. Your only way to progress is to take one shitty guess after another. It doesn't even feel like you're supposed to access these areas. Seeing the underside of the fire-breathing seahorse is just plain weird. Like I'm not even supposed to be here. Oh, and for the record, if you say that's what Nintendo Power was for, well, there was no Nintendo Power. The power wasn't turned on yet.
Did you know? Metroid was originally called Space Hunter. This term can still be seen in the game's instruction booklet where it refers to bounty hunters as space hunters. According to a developer interview in the Japanese magazine Nintendo Dream, Nintendo wanted to use the term bounty hunter but couldn't rewrite the text in time for the game's release. They later settled on the name Metroid, which came from combining the words metro, as in a metro subway, and android, which is strange considering the game's protagonist, Samus Aran, isn't an android. That said, Samus's identity wasn't fully realized until partway through the game's development. Her gender was decided after developers said, hey, wouldn't it be kind of cool if it turned out that this person inside the suit was a woman? Samus's physical appearance in Super Metroid was based on the actress Kim Basinger. Her second name, Aran, came from soccer player Pele, whose real name was Edison Arantes do Nascimento. Samus was referred to as a he in the instruction booklet, though this may have been a cover-up to ensure the end reveal was shocking. Samus originally had unique animations for walking left and right, rather than having the same animation mirrored for both directions. These unused sprites are actually still in the game's data. Samus's movement also went through some changes. enemies. At first, the developers thought she moved too slow on screen. They increased her speed, but this increase made it hard to maneuver through small areas and on small platforms. Thus, the environments were made larger to compensate, resulting in the expansive labyrinths the series is known for. Samus's iconic design, dressed in the round-shouldered Varia suit, didn't debut until Metroid 2: Return of Samus. In the first Metroid, the different suits that Samus equips, the Varia suit and the Power suit, were the same shape but had different colors. The Game Boy's visuals lacked color, so for Metroid 2, these suits were redesigned so players could tell them apart. Also, the name Varia suit was a mistranslation from Japanese and was meant to be called Barrier suit, as stated in Metroid's instruction booklet.
She made gaming history by just taking off her helmet. Welcome to Mojo Plays, and today we're going to explore the origins of the intergalactic bounty hunter Samus Aran. Before we begin, be sure to subscribe to Mojo Plays and click on the links in the description to vote on upcoming content. Surprisingly, one of the most famous female characters in gaming wasn't originally intended to be a woman at all. The original 1986 Metroid game concept focused on a character named Samus who would fight through waves of aliens solo in an orange power suit. The creators wanted to spice things up by having different endings for the player based on how fast they beat the game. Someone on the team floated the, quote, shocking idea where the main character would be revealed to be a woman. The team liked the idea and kept Samus's identity a secret, even going so far as to lie about her gender in the game manuals. And since this was the 1980s, aka pre-Google, the only way you'd ever find out the truth was to beat the game in under 5 hours. Long after Samus's identity was common knowledge, though, the origins of the stoic bounty hunter were largely shrouded in mystery. That majorly changed in 2002, when a manga was released to explore Samus's backstory. Although some details were later contradicted by future games, such as the divisive Metroid Other M, the storyline introduced a few key events that would become staples of Metroid lore. Samus was born sometime after the cosmic year 2000 on an Earth colony called K2L. When she was 3 years old, her home was attacked by a crew of space pirates led by the deadly Ripley, who basically looks like a dragon. After barely surviving their rampage, she was adopted by a bird-like alien race known as the Chozo. Once Samus arrived at their colony on the planet Zebes, the Chozo combined her DNA with theirs so that she could adapt quickly to her new environment. Fortunately, instead of mutating her into some horrible bird lady, the Chozo DNA made Samus stronger and faster than a normal human, but kept her good looking. She then honed her superhuman abilities with years of warrior training with the Chozo. By the time she was 14, her natural abilities and good instincts inspired the Chozo to give her her now iconic power suit. The suit is actually more than just a cool set of armor though. It was built to incorporate new weapons and abilities as Samus finds them on her travels. The suit would also respond to her thoughts, which allows Samus to summon it at will. In some cases, her thoughts have actually caused the suit to malfunction when she's emotionally distressed, something that isn't exactly a favorite feature amongst fans.
What's your status? He hit me! Samus, do you read me?
Anyway, armed with both Chozo training and equipment, Samus joined the Galactic Federation Army. There she worked hard to gain respect and make sure that she'd be treated the same as her male peers. Her attitude made her seem more like an outsider to some of her other soldiers though. However, despite Samus's tough exterior, she gained comrades like Ian Malkovich and found a mentor in his brother Adam. But her destiny would be forever altered with one Federation mission.
Quickly, go meet them there.
While aboard a Federation battleship that was towing the damaged spacecraft Lusitania, her friend Ian was tasked with going inside of the Lusitania's drive unit, which is the equivalent of a big engine, in order to repair it. But the unit soon became unstable and threatened to blow up. Her superior officer, Adam, commanded that the battleship eject the engine so that the rest of the crew could survive. Really not happy with this order, Samus tried to convince Adam to let her save his brother, but it was already too late. The engine was detached and Ian lost his life. Watching Ian die heavily influenced Samus's decision to leave the Federation and become a bounty hunter. Despite her decision, the Galactic Federation still relied on Samus and her skills to help them from time to time with difficult missions. Their continued partnership eventually led to the bounty hunter being tasked to return to her adopted planet Zebes. Her mission, fight through space pirates to destroy the alien creatures known as Metroid. This is probably going to sound very familiar to any Metroid fan, as this plot is both the mission of the first Metroid game and its remake, Metroid Zero Mission. Since embarking on her first adventure, Samus has gained a following that has transcended her series. She's appeared in Nintendo crossover comics, become a prominent member of the Super Smash Bros. Series, and is routinely highlighted as one of the greatest video game heroines of all time. Samus's journey began as a surprise for dedicated gamers, and now it's hard to imagine a world of gaming without this powerful bounty hunter. So come on, new Metroid Prime already, right?
This is GTV, broadcasting across the galaxy. In the darkest reaches of deep space, where the most dangerous and vile alien life dwells, Samus Aran is on the case, exterminating the worst of the worst so that the civilized planets of our galaxy may live in peace. With a protective suit of armor and powerful blasting cannon, Samus Aran is the bravest of the brave, the scourge of space pirates, and a true hero to all. The tape ends. Samus looks on from inside the spaceship cockpit. This promo video is perfect, says Samus. The phone rings. The commander is on the line. She says the Galaxy Police Department insists that you must come at once. At the GPD HQ, the chief begins to brief Samus on an important mission. A recent discovery on the planet SR-388 has led to a serious situation. It looks like a gachapon, Samus says. No, says the chief. This object was discovered on planet SR-388. This, and others like it, contain a mysterious life force never before seen in the galaxy. The chief continues. After some study, we have learned that exposing this newly discovered life force to beta radiation brings it to full maturity, creating a terrible alien creature called Metroid. Metroid are a terrible parasite with the ability to drain the life force from other living beings. It seems to have no other function. 1 month ago, the Federation sent a ship to planet SR-388 for further discovery and exploration. However, space pirates attacked our ship and have procured an untold number of undeveloped Metroid, taking them back to their home base on planet Zebes. Their leader, Mother Brain, and her minions have been multiplying Metroid ever since. If they were unleashed, the result would be devastating. Samus, your mission is to clear Zebes of Metroid and destroy Mother Brain in order to secure our planet and others from a Metroid invasion. Yes, Captain, says Samus. The captain replies, before you go, we must test your reflexes. Our hero and the captain face off in a game of volleyball on the Nintendo family computer. The captain gets the upper hand quickly and dominates the game. Samus blasts the wall in frustration. The captain says, okay, you passed the test. Our hero takes off for Zebes in the Cosmo Liner ship. It's a long journey, and Samus prefers a different game to pass the time, while the Cosmo Liner makes its way to the destination. 1 month later, the Cosmo Liner begins its approach to planet Zebes. Near the orbit of the planet, Samus has been detected by nearby pirate ships. They swarm Samus and attack. Our hero tries to escape but is outnumbered and gets blasted. Samus ejects from the cockpit and gets sucked into the gravitational pull of Zebes, hurling straight to the planet's surface. Rather unluckily, our hero falls through a giant crater and is trapped underground. Now on the planet's surface, Samus can begin the mission in earnest, which is to clear the planet of the Metroid infestation and destroy Mother Brain.
Welcome back to another episode, and today we get to talk about some of our early memories playing the Metroid series. Now, we've loved this series our entire lives, and we got some cool stories. Actually, some of the stories when me and Rob first met were from playing Metroid, and we're only going to cover Metroid 1 and Super Metroid. And we love Metroid Prime and the later series, love them to death. But we just thought we'd center on talking about the early games in the series. Now, what were some of your memories? Now, I know you love this game so much. What are some of your memories playing Metroid?
Oh, man. Okay, first of all, this is one of the first NES games I ever played. Back in 1988? I'm pretty sure it was 88. There was a guy that moved into my neighborhood, and he was in my class in grade 5, and he introduced me to the Nintendo. I'd never seen one before, never heard of it. And one of the first games he put in to show me was Metroid. And as a guy coming from a Commodore VIC-20, that was mind-blowing. The graphics, the gameplay, the everything was incredible. But it was just such an engrossing thing to see.
Now, what was the first time that you actually got your own copy of Metroid?
Oh, this is a wonderful story of a Christmas morning. It's the Christmas I very first got my Nintendo Entertainment System. And I woke up, and my brother and sister, we all went downstairs, and down by the Christmas tree in our family, Santa used to leave a gift for each of us unwrapped under the tree. Now, my brother and sister's gifts were there. There was just a little card with my name written on it and a piece of ribbon taped to it that trailed off through the house. And so I sort of looked at this, and my brother and sister were like, playing with their toys. And I followed that ribbon, and it went all the way through to the living room. And the Nintendo was hooked up to the TV, and it was on, ready to go. I could pick up the controller, start playing, and Super Mario Brothers was in it. And that, to me, was the best Christmas ever. I didn't need anything else. But lo and behold, under the tree, I also got Super Mario Brothers 2 and Metroid. And that was one of the best Christmases I've ever had. I mean, I played that day in and day out.
Now, the funny thing is, my experience with Metroid is, it's just like Zelda. I said that in the Zelda one, is that I didn't understand Metroid at all. I was playing it like an action game, and I didn't understand. I'm like, where's the end of the level? Where's the next level begin? I never understood how to play this game at all. What helped you? How did you break the ice in figuring it out? I kind of gave up. I was like, I don't understand this. I like the game. I love the music and all that, but I didn't understand it.
What's really messed up is, and I don't think I've even told you about this, I played a game on the Commodore VIC-20 called Seamus. There was a very similar thing. You had to travel back and forth finding keys to unlock doors and open things throughout the game to try and get to the end. So this kind of a dynamic was something I was a little bit used to from the VIC-20.
Yeah.
But for me, the other thing that helped, my friend when I first played it, Craig, he had Metroid, and he also had this, and I got this that Christmas morning. The official Nintendo Player's Guide, aka the NES Gamer's Bible. This thing saved my bacon with playing the game. Now,
I gotta say, this is Rob's original guide.
Like, look how beat up it is. It's just threadbare. Pages are worn, dog-eared. I lent it to a guy that we both know named Ashley, and his hamster ate a chunk out of the cover. I mean, like, this is careworn and loved. But the pages for Metroid.
Oh wow!
Look, see the packing tape?
Yeah.
They're actually held together with packing tape because I used it so much. And that, my friends, that's how I managed to get through the game. Wow. That is the entire world map. Every item, where it's hidden, strategies and tips. It's just unbelievable. Oh, so nostalgic looking at this. Oh, I spent hours, all the enemies, the different items, all the tips on how you bomb through walls and jump through things. Like, this was such a great game. I poured over this book. It took me, like, I think, a week.
Yeah.
Of playing day in and day out.
Took you a week to finish the game?
Gord and I used to set up, my parents set up a card table in the living room with a mini TV on it just so we could play this so they could do what they wanted to do with the main TV. And we played it all day. Like, the Nintendo used to overheat.
I know I'm not the only one who finds himself playing some video games at the end of the day to simply unwind and relax for a bit. But for some reason, I have a fascination of replaying older games when I'm stressed out instead of some newer ones fresh off the store. I guess it's got something to do with retreading through some good memories that I associate with the game, and the ability to shut off my brain and simply rely on my muscle memory to blaze past its challenges that I find to be oddly hypnotizing. But in all the times we might find ourselves replaying the Metroid games, haven't you ever found yourself wondering, Why is it that there's almost always a self-destruct or escape sequence in these games? Or why Samus takes off her armor at the end of the adventure? Or even why the main series antagonist has such a weird name for a rather fearsome and gruesome character? I mean, all of these things might simply be considered traditions of the franchise at this point, but there must be a reason to where these ideas originally come from, right? At the end of the day, every story or idea has one or more sources of inspiration, but with how uptight Nintendo is in keeping its secrets, this can be a bit of a trouble to solve. Fortunately for us, one of Metroid's key creators and director, Yoshio Sakamoto, once stated in an interview shortly after the release of Zero Mission that, quote, "I think the film Alien had a huge influence on the production of the first Metroid game. All of the team members were affected by H.R. Giger's design work, and I think they were aware that such designs would be a good match for the Metroid world we had already put in place." So I think it's safe to say that Ridley Scott's 1979 horror film Alien had a big impact on the development team. And once you compare certain events from the game with the ones in the movie, the inspiration of certain key elements from the Metroid series start becoming a little bit more apparent. However, for the sake of simplicity with this video, I will be only looking at the similarities between the Metroid series with the original Alien film and its sequel Aliens, which was directed by James Cameron and released in 1986. Since these two films are more likely the ones to inspire a lot of the ideas of the original Metroid trilogy that were later reused for future games in the franchise. But before we begin, here's your obligatory spoiler warning for the first two Alien films. If for whatever reason you haven't seen these movies at this point and are remotely curious about them, I suggest you go watch the movies first and then come back to this video. Last thing I want to do is spoil one of my favorite films of all time to some potential newcomers, but with all that said, you've been warned. Spoilers ahead. So, where do we start drawing the comparisons between Alien and Metroid? Well, why not with their settings? Both media take place in a sci-fi universe where a tough female lead is trying to take down what seems to be an invincible, never-before-seen life form in a desolate place that once used to be a home of sorts to the protagonists, but now has become a desolate and hostile location that both are trying to escape from. And if anything, the ship that serves as the main location for the Alien film, the Nostromo, definitely inspired the idea of numerous abandoned space stations that host something dangerous in them that we see in the Metroid series, like the BSL station in Fusion, the frigate Orpheon in Prime, and most notably the Space Colony Ceres at the beginning of Super Metroid. For those of you who might not know, Ridley's name in the Metroid games is most likely a reference or homage to the director of the film, Sir Ridley Scott. And part of the space pirate's physical appearance could have been inspired by the iconic horror creature from the movie that is referred to at times as the Xenomorph. With their slender body, long limbs and head, the ability to spew out acid or plasma, and the iconic pointy tail that can easily stab their prey. On top of this, the Xenomorph's role also helped inspire certain traits seen on the titular Metroids. Both creatures originally come from an uncharted planet or moon and start their life cycle by hatching from an egg, and attack their prey by attaching themselves onto their victim's head, ultimately evolving into an unstoppable monster from which some members of each species have the ability to evolve into a queen that can sort of command other members of their group. But the similarities don't stop there, since the Nostromo has a built-in supercomputer known as Mother, that works as a sort of an artificial intelligence to help guide the crew on their journey, and this computer's name could have probably inspired the concept for Mother Brain as a character. After coming to terms with what they're dealing with, the Nostromo crew realize that they have no chance fighting the alien, as it's hunting them down one by one. And in a last-ditch effort to save themselves, the film's protagonist Ellen Ripley and her team decide to activate the ship's self-destruct mechanism and plan to escape via some smaller shuttles found aboard. And if this inspiration isn't obvious to you now, this tense and climactic moment in the film is what might have heavily inspired the many self-destruct sequences that are prevalent in the Metroid games.
Anybody remember Samus Returns for the 3DS back in 2017? Wait a minute, didn't Samus already return? Shouldn't this game be called Samus Re-Returns or Samus Returns Again? Yeah, I know, it's a remaster, or a remake, or whatever. It was a great game that felt just like the good old days of Metroid. Why can't we have more modern 2D games? They're always great. Samus Returns isn't really the focus here, though I will come back to this game at the end to wrap up everything full circle. So you want to stay to the end for the shocking surprise. I want to focus on the first Metroid. It came out alongside The Legend of Zelda and Kid Icarus in the US back in 1987. All 3 games were brutal, unless you had a guidebook, maps, or any understanding of what to do. That's just the way it was 40 years ago. Here you go, Junior. 3 insanely super hard games with absolutely no help. Enjoy! In Japan, all 3 games had save features, but only Zelda came to the West with this intact. Metroid and Kid Icarus came with a password function. Okay, kids, and I really do mean kids, because if you were born in an era of cloud syncing, it might be hard to wrap your head around that games like Zelda had batteries inside them to save the game. To cut costs, because, duh, batteries cost money, a password system was used for a lot of games instead. Something fun and cool about passwords was that you could enter whatever you wanted. Maybe you'd get lucky and a made-up password would work, unlocking access to somewhere in the game that isn't the start. In Metroid, one such password has become infamous. Justin Bailey, with all dashes underneath, sends you right to the end with a full arsenal and the best ending. It also revealed a shocking secret. Samus Aran was a woman. The proper way to see Samus's face is to beat the game in under a certain time limit. You only need to finish in under 7 hours 24 minutes in the NTSC version to see your face. PAL runs slower, so it actually takes more time, 8 hours 53 minutes, but it's not like the game is helping you out. 2 hours 24 minutes has Samus in a one piece, and 1 hour or less gives you the best ending. But that was never going to happen, so the password was the way to go. And the only way to play without the armor is to start the game again after defeating Mother Brain. The Japanese version on the family computer doesn't allow this. You can only go to the last time you saved, which has to be before the game is finished. You can't save after you're done. So, Justin Bailey. Who was that? Why was a common name used as the ultimate password in Metroid? In the 1980s, you couldn't just run to the all-knowing trash heap called Google with every single little thing on your mind. You had all kinds of crazy stories floating around out there, and no way to know what the truth actually was. One rumor was simply that Justin Bailey was a programmer who stuck his name in the game. Yeah, maybe. Another rumor is that Justin Bailey is not a name, but a phrase. In the game, Samus wears a suit of armor, but with the Justin Bailey code, she wears a one-piece. The rumor of the day was that a Bailey was a slang word in Australia in the 1940s for a bathing suit. I tell ya, kids on the playground will make up just about anything. Another rumor, some kid in God knows where, BFE, actually named Justin Bailey, put his own name in, and it worked. Not scientifically impossible, though it still didn't explain where it came from, just how it was discovered. Gaming magazines also helped spread the word. Electronic Gaming Monthly broke the news before anyone else. But this first mention of the Justin Bailey password wasn't actually in EGM at all, but Boys Life magazine. In March 1989, an advertisement for EGM subscriptions made mention of it. The password never seems to have made it to the actual magazine, though. Probably because EGM got scooped by Video Games and Computer Entertainment when the password was submitted by a reader in their July 1989 issue. This guy probably just mailed in what he read in Boys Life. The July-August 89 EGM does have a different, strange Metroid password. We all remember the famous 9K password, right? Justin Bailey eventually wound up in Nintendo Power in October 1991. Late, I know. But then again, they never caught the Super Mario Bros. 2 subspace music bug either. At some point, the truth finally came out. It was actually more unbelievable than all the rumors put together. Justin Bailey was pure, random chance. Long after the 90s ended, those working at Nintendo of America at the time, like George Sinfield, admitted Justin Bailey is pure coincidence and was not put into the game intentionally. One password was actually hard-coded into the game. It gives you infinite energy, infinite missiles, and every power-up. Narpa's sword. Or is it Nar Password? NAR could be part of the name of Toru Narihiro, who actually created the password system for the NES version of Metroid, which, if true, would actually be the programmer credit we all thought Justin Bailey was. Metroid 2, Return of Samus, and Super Metroid came and went, with battery backup, and over time game saves became the norm. with long passwords dying out. Sure, they were fun to mess around with, but were a pain to put in. Eventually, Justin Bailey faded away. But for gamers of a certain age, it was a secret handshake that would tell others you were in the know, and that we didn't forget. Some of us who grew up knowing the most famous password let it be known, secretly. The game Shadow Complex includes an achievement called Jason Bailey for completing the game with a 100% rating in under 2 hours. The achievement icon is a pair of tighty whities. In Axiom Verge, Justin Bailey works as a password and will change the outfit of the character just like Samus in Metroid. The weirdest, most random, out there reference of Justin Bailey is from the kids' TV show Magical Do-Re-Mi, where a student in the school, who coincidentally has green hair, is actually named, you guessed it,
Justin Bailey?
While it does seem that a mythical Justin Bailey, born sometime between 1975 and 1982, who discovered himself in Metroid, is nothing more than a legend, Justin Baileys born after Metroid have been found in other video games. Just look at this. Born in 1995, Justin Bailey is a professional hockey player, appearing on several teams, including the Buffalo Sabres and Vancouver Canucks. In what is possibly the ultimate video game full circle of crazy weirdness, Justin Bailey is playable in NHL 18. That game was released on September 15th, 2017, the same day as Samus Returns. Well, my mind is blown. I'm out of here.
After many years of rumors and waiting, Metroid 5, aka Metroid Dread, is finally releasing on the Nintendo Switch. Metroid is a series that's been around since the Famicom and NES days, but never quite reached the same mainstream recognition as Mario or Zelda. But there's been somewhat of a Metroid resurgence lately. Samus Returns on 3DS, Prime 4 in development, and now Metroid Dread, which wraps up the main story started all the way back in the original game. Even the announcement trailer for Metroid Dread has over 2 million views on Nintendo's YouTube channel as of making this video. But if you're looking to finally give Metroid a shot, you might be asking yourself, well, does the original 8-bit game hold up? Is it worth going all the way back to the start before Dread to see how it all began? Well, in this video, I'm going to answer that question as I revisit the original Metroid.
The challenge is Metroid. The power is Nintendo. Defend the planet Zebus against the evil Mother Brain. It's survival or destruction. Do battle or die. Metroid only from Nintendo.
For those who don't know, the original Metroid has a very simple premise. Defeat the Metroid and destroy the Mother Brain. But if you flip through the pages of the original instruction booklet, you get a little more backstory. To boil it down as best I can, Galactic Federation exists and there's peace and prosperity between the planets, but space pirates exist and they don't want peace. So the Galactic Federation police is formed to stop them. But the space pirates were too cool and too awesome to be caught, so space hunters or bounty hunters were sent to capture them. In the year 20X5, the space pirates steal a capsule from a research lab containing an unknown deadly life form that was dubbed Metroid. The space pirates who hate peace and happiness want to use the Metroid as a weapon to destroy the galaxy. How original. The Federation police then locate the space pirates' headquarters on a planet known as Zebus, or well, Zebeth, according to the original game's translation. The Federation police are unable to get into the planet. As a last resort, the Federation police call in the best space hunter in the galaxy, Samus Aran, the game's protagonist, to penetrate the center of the planet and destroy the leader of the space pirates, Mother Brain. So, guess the story isn't so simple after all. If you're curious about the entire Metroid timeline in the lead up to Metroid Dread, well then you're in luck because we have the complete Metroid timeline explained from our very own Adam Mason, which I will link in the description. Metroid was created after Nintendo's other big hits like Donkey Kong, Super Mario Bros., and The Legend of Zelda. In an effort to distinguish Metroid from other titles, it was decided that the game would be a non-linear platforming adventure game with a design that both encouraged exploration and collecting new permanent upgrades to expand your arsenal. The title Metroid comes from the combination of the words Metro and Android. Metro because the planet's design takes inspiration from the Japanese Metro subway lines, and Android because, according to the instruction manual mentioned earlier, Samus is a cyborg. Their entire body has been surgically strengthened with robotics, giving them superpowers. Notice how I changed the pronouns in that quote? Well, it's no secret nowadays, but back in the day, if you finished Metroid fast enough, it would be revealed to the player that underneath the suit, Samus was actually a woman. Whether the original instruction booklet called Samus a he because the person writing it didn't know, or they didn't want to spoil the surprise, we'll never really know.
As the story goes, this happened because the production of Metroid was a very free working environment. Someone just said, hey, wouldn't it be kinda cool if it turned out the person inside the suit was a woman? Sure, the original 1979 Alien film was a big influence on Metroid, and the protagonist of that film is also a woman. But the protagonist of Metroid, a brand new video game from the biggest video game company at the time, being one of the first female protagonists in video games was a big deal, especially in 1986. And Samus is considered to be a breakthrough for female characters in video games to this day. So, not only did Metroid go on to inspire the Metroidvania genre as seen in video games like Hollow Knight and Axiom Verge, it was also among the first games to feature a female protagonist. So despite how anyone feels about actually playing this game, it's definitely an important one in the history of video games. And all that's to say, I didn't really like playing the original Metroid, or rather, I don't feel like the game has aged very well. It's not just because the game is old. There are plenty of NES games that I think are still fun like the original Super Mario Bros. But with Metroid, what was once innovative now feels like a relic of the past. At the end of the day, it's not right to fault an NES game for what it isn't, so I'm not going to do that. Rather, here's why I don't recommend forcing yourself through the original Metroid in 2021. For starters, this game is tough. Feel free to tell me in the comments that I'm not a real gamer, but with Samus only being able to aim up, left, or right, it can be hard to hit anything that isn't exactly lined up with you. And you can only move so fast, meaning dodging isn't always the best solution either. If you die, you go all the way back to the beginning, or at least all the way back to the beginning of a new zone since the game has multiple. Some people might enjoy the challenge, but I really don't like being forced to traverse back to the same place over and over every time I die and start back from square one. You also start the game with only 30 health, and 30 might seem like a big number, but it's really not a lot when the max is 99. It can be upgraded by finding energy tanks, and you keep those energy tanks even when you die. But when you do die, it still goes back down to 30, and those extra energy tanks are just empty. Want more health? Better get used to farming enemies for 5 extra health at a time. Given the fact that drops are random, this could take a while, or you could just try to power your way through with 30 health. It's kind of a lose-lose scenario. The game also has no map, and a lot of areas look exactly the same, so it's really easy to get lost. It's one thing to get booted back to the beginning, it's another to have no clear indication of how to even get back to where you were. Plus, upgrades and secrets are so easy to miss, and rarely is there ever any indication that there's a secret to be found. Bomb this floor? How would you know to do that? This red door only opens when you shoot it with 5 missiles? Again, how would you know to do that? Trial and error? I don't consider shooting and bombing every single corner trial and error. Just a waste of time, but maybe that's just me. Oh, and those missiles I mentioned? There's a finite amount. Want more? Time to farm enemies for random drops just like health, and that could take a really long time. So if anything, I'm less incentivized to blow up everything around me when my missiles are precious resources. My capture card didn't even like this game, it kept smearing for some reason. In my opinion, one of the only redeeming qualities of this game is the music. It's so iconic and never gets tiring, even if I was stuck for a while or kept dying and trying to get back to where I was. And trust me, there was a lot of that. At this point you might be thinking to yourself, well now why is Evan so negative? It's a video game from 35 years ago, what did he expect? Well first of all, you're not entirely wrong, but there's a very specific reason I lean a little more on the negative side with Metroid, and it consists of 2 additional words. Wanna guess what they are? In 2004, Nintendo released a full remake of the original Metroid titled Zero Mission for the Game Boy Advance. Metroid Zero Mission is a full retelling of the original story with new cutscenes and an entirely new ending section starring Zero Suit Samus. So if you're looking to start with the first entry before Metroid Dread, this is actually the perfect place to start. But it's not just an improved story. Oh no, this game has all the bells and whistles. Save points so you don't have to go all the way back to the beginning when you die? Check. A map? Check. A system that gives you a direction to work towards? Check. Difficulty options? Check. Being able to aim your arm cannon in more than 3 stiff directions? Check. And here's the best part. Once you beat the game, you unlock the original NES Metroid. Yeah, it's included in Zero Mission. 2 games in 1. So if you want to start from Zero Mission and play that, you also get to try the original NES Metroid for free. The original Metroid was a perfect candidate for a remake, and I'm glad Nintendo acted upon that 17 years ago. So okay, does the original Metroid hold up in 2021? No, absolutely not. Play Zero Mission instead. Unfortunately, despite just singing the praises of Metroid Zero Mission, there's only 2 legal ways to play the game nowadays. You can either track down an original GBA cartridge, or you can download it from the Wii U Virtual Console. I always knew owning a Wii U would be cool one day. Currently on the Nintendo Switch, you can only play the original NES Metroid through their online service, but it's very strange to me that they went out of their way to make a really solid remake all those years ago, but now only offer the original inferior version. But I will give credit where credit is due. There are 2 special versions of Metroid on the Switch's NES Online that start you later in the game and with a bunch of upgrades already unlocked. So if you wanted to just dip your toes into the original Metroid, this isn't a bad way to do it, since there's a Zero Mission shaped hole in the Switch's library. So in conclusion, I really wouldn't call the original Metroid a bad game. Far from it, actually. Sure, it's not worth playing nowadays, especially with how much better each subsequent entry in the series is. But the impact the original Metroid made was tremendous, and it will forever be an important milestone in video games.